There's an interesting similarity between agriculture and learning Norwegian. And I learned that in chemistry class in high school. Okay, so let me connect the dots here. There is a principle in agriculture and plant growth specifically that goes back to a German chemist called Justus von Liebig. He lived in the 19th century, so he has been dead for a long time now, and he studied plant growth. And he realized the plant, in order to grow, it needs a lot of different things. It needs sunlight and high temperature and fertilizer and water and God knows what. But at any given point, when a plant stops growing, then it's usually due to one of these factors. So in other words, if it's the sunlight that is lacking, then it doesn't help if you put more water, more fertilizer. The plant will still not grow unless you tear down the wall or wherever it's standing so it gets more sunlight. Okay, it's a little bit like with this picture of the barrel where the water comes out because it's completely broken, so you have to fix it at the lowest point. If you fix all the other parts of the barrel, it's not going to help. The water will still come out. And I think there is something very similar in language learning. So language learning, when we're learning Norwegian, it's overwhelming. Yeah, you have all the dialects and you have the grammar and you have the vocabulary and you don't have enough time and it's all complicated. It's overwhelming. But if you're really, really honest to yourself, you might find out that there is always one thing that is holding you back the most. Maybe it's not as strict as with plant growth, but the principle is still very strong. And what do I mean by being very honest? Well, I sometimes hear students say things that they think holds them back, but in reality, it might be something completely different. For example, many students tell me, I need to study more grammar. Yeah, very often it's not the grammar. It might be pronunciation, it might be fear of being misunderstood, it might be fear of speaking in general, or people tell me listening comprehension is so complicated. But maybe the problem is more that there is a bit of a fear of rejection. You don't want to ask for a Norwegian word you didn't understand, and then maybe you don't understand it still, and then they switch back to English, and then that feels humiliating, and so on. You want to avoid that situation, but it's a bit more easier, a bit more rational to say, well, I need to improve my listening comprehension. Or many people tell me time. Yeah, they don't have time. But often I discover it's more motivation that is lacking. Or they say, I don't have talent. Yeah, me and languages, no, that doesn't work. I've never learned a language. Norwegian, forget about it. Too complicated. Usually if I dig a little bit deeper and I say, yeah, okay, what have you tried in order to learn Norwegian? Then they tell me, well, not much. Yeah, so they're more waiting for a miracle, so it's more time that is the limiting factor. They just haven't put in enough time to study. Or it could also be that they say, I'm not really motivated. Well, maybe you're not, but motivation is sometimes also overrated, and maybe the issue is that the material you're using is boring. So there can be sometimes a reason that seems obvious, but actually there is another reason that's a little bit deeper and is a bit more psychological, and you need to dig a little bit to find out what that reason is. But I'd like to invite you to do that, because many times I see students who are really held back by one thing, that they're not ready to face some unpleasant feeling or some activities they need to do that they feel are unpleasant, and therefore they don't do them and they don't make any progress. So I'd like you to dig deeper. And by the way, if you think like many students, like it's grammar that's holding me back, download my free survival guide to Norwegian grammar, where I explain this problem in a little bit more detail. So what do you think? What's your minimum factor? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious to know what is holding you back from learning Norwegian.